recording this Zoom. So now we're recording the Zoom. Hopefully I'm only seeing the lag on my side and not actually on Zoom. We got some people jumping in on IG. Is it blurry or is it not?
No, it's fine.
All right, so check it out. What's going on, everybody? What's up, Will?
What's going on, my guy?
Happening, bro. If this is your first time joining us, this is the podcast Into the Mind. I'm your host, Marlon Johnson, former parkour athlete, now entrepreneur. I invest in real estate, I buy ugly houses, and right now I am on a mission to do a few things, actually. Today, this episode is totally off the rip, so just bear with me here. But one of the main things I do with this podcast is I sit down with individuals that have achieved success, people that have overcome different obstacles, and ultimately what we do is we learn about what they've done right, and more importantly, what they've done wrong, so we could dive into some of those mistakes, learn from those lessons, and then copy the things that they've done well so that we can improve our situation. So I'm looking forward to this. We got IG live at the same time. I see Tanisha, I see Anna. I'm excited. I have no idea who's hanging out on Facebook with us, but we're going to be jumping into this episode. So today I got my homie Will Ayarza hanging out in Arizona. He came all the way from New York. Anyone that knows me knows I'm originally from New York. Will is actually one of the first people I met in real estate. Like, no joke. You were there at the very first, real estate seminar I was at, the first room, the first campfire I went to that was all about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
That's where you and I connected. And we've been cool since. That was October of 2019.
Yeah.
And I literally have seen you more on my real estate journey than basically anybody else. So shout out to you for that, bro. I really do appreciate you big
Likewise.
time. We're going to be jumping into essentially your journey because you got a really cool journey. I don't even know if I want to give up all the details, man. There's some, I know so much about you, bro. It's actually kind of crazy. It's coming to me. But, what I want to do is I want to have you, share with the audience, share with people a little bit about who you are, where you're from, because you come from not necessarily a real estate background. You come from an athletic background. And even before that, just the lifestyle that you've come up with and the areas that you've grown from. I want you to share that with people. So can you tell them a little bit about who you were, or who you are before real estate?
So, aside Will Ayarza is everyone calls me that, right? And before real estate in general, the way I basically got even into real estate, but just lifestyle in general, and what I continue to still do now is I'm a professional b-boy, a competitive b-boy, and what that means is breakdancing, right? I'm a break dancer. And
not a free dancer.
Not a free dancer. I got into that at about 10 years of age, and I've seen it here and there. You'll see it in movies, right? Like dance movies or scenes like that. But I got into it at 10 years old. I remember I joined the YMCA program for an after school program, and I was like, that's gonna be the way I get cool, because that's all I wanted at 10 years old, was to be super cool. Get the girls, all that. And I was like, yo, I'm going to learn hip hop. I'm going to take the class, hip hop 101. My mom signed me up, and bro, that did not make me cool, but it was one step at a time towards getting there. But essentially what happened was I joined the hip hop program. I met these kids there, all my age, all similar age, but they've been there even before I was. They were all part of just hip hop itself. If you're familiar with hip hop, there's always I think 5 elements to it, which is the dance part, right? So breaking, there's graffiti, there's emceeing, and let me see what else. Oh, I'm sorry, DJing. And they say the 5th element is knowledge.
Wait, so graffiti is an element of hip hop?
Yeah.
That's a way to get into hip hop. It's like if I'm tagging.
You're hip hop.
Oh, dang.
You're hashtag hip hop.
Bro, I used to be hip hop, bro.
Oh, really? Oh, you okay? My graffiti writing was terrible. I could never do it.
Sorry, mom, if you're watching this. I didn't know I was just doing hip hop.
You're just doing hip hop. That's all it was. And essentially what ended up happening was I didn't seriously get involved into the dance part of it, because it was just I had some skill here and there, but none of the kids cared. They were just he's not gonna last, right? It's I was kind of a nerdy kid. It wasn't until some older kids, actually 17 years of age, I was still 11, 12, they came around. They was and they just taught the rest of us together as a group.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So they came by and it was just yeah, you guys got potential. They started training us, and they had us form our own kid crew at the time, right? And at the time, I was excluded even from that crew.
Hey,
I was there's been a common pattern all throughout my life. I was like
Yeah,
an outcast in a way. Like I always try to be involved, and it's like, oh, there's like you're not in the circle. You're just not part of it. You're just not part of it yet. They ended up doing their own kid crew. I was a part of another kid crew that didn't last. We went to a competition called Kids of New York, right? And essentially what ended up happening was I joined that kid crew. We called ourselves, we based it off the TV show. You're probably young enough to remember Teen Titans back in the day.
bro, the real
the
good one.
The good one.
Cool.
Yeah. That one.
Like I've seen this new one, and I'm like,
Yeah, this new one's corny, and I was like, no, that's not it. That's not the one. But we named our kid crew called Teen Titans, and at that point when I battled with them, we actually won our Kids of New York battle. And so it was just like one step at a time. Like it was just like from not being accepted in an outcast to joining and kind of fighting my way to get in, or just always just kind of one challenge at a time.
So that's cool. So essentially, from getting into this hip hop, right? Like it's almost funny. Like it reminds me, my brain starts going to like Kobe Bryant, right? When like if you ever heard his story about how when he started basketball, he wasn't very good.
Right.
He like admittedly says like I was trash. Like I went out there, I wasn't accepted by the other kids. I lost every game that I played.
Yeah.
But I just kept going at it. I kept gunning at it. And then he just worked his way up.
They couldn't get rid of him.
Right. Like at that point, it's like, look, you can't deny the fact that my work ethic is why I'm in the room. Like I've really got the skills. And it's crazy because your skills, like you're breaking from where you started to where we were at today. Like, if y'all don't know, today, Will was on TV. He was on television, breakdancing on television, getting a $10,000, like you got $10,000 discount on a property. Like he literally like earned $10,000 today for being able to breakdance on the spot. It was insane. Like it was fire. If you haven't seen it yet, go like check out his IG. So, well, it's gonna be gone by now. Like if you're watching this in the future, but it was crazy that a skill from so long ago has come into play today. So breakdancing is still very much a passion for you. And I want to just let everyone know, I want to give some frame to this. Like Will is an athlete, he's a professional athlete, professional dancer. And at the same time, he is a full-time entrepreneur, right? Like, again, we met through real estate. So you get into this Teen Titans, you start crushing it, right? Or you begin like the process of realizing like, I can do more. So tell me, like, how does that journey continue? Like, where do you start finding yourself going?
Essentially what ends up happening is so one, these guys can't get rid of me. It's like they have to let me get down with these guys, right? All these guys my age, and now they're like some of my best friends that I've been with since day one. From that journey on, I kind of always stood out in a sense. There was always like some sort of special ability I've had, and whether it be in dance, but it was not even my dance. It's like you said, the work ethic. And actually, not to sidetrack, but Kobe Bryant, actually, he used to dance himself. You can find videos online. He entered a talent show and he was dancing, and then he also used to break. There's like a video, you'll find it online. I'm pretty sure I saved it too.
So you're saying if I want to be successful, I just gotta start.
You gotta start dancing, bro.
I just gotta start dancing.
Start dancing. But what ended up happening was from then on, you get into junior high school, you get into high school, and these opportunities start coming around. We're like, whoa, you get to compete in Europe, and you get to compete in Asia, and Canada, South America, things like that. You could compete all over the world because it was getting to such a high level, and I was striving for that high of a level to compete at. Even from where I was in my little town in New York, because we were just seeing all these videos come out on YouTube, and that started even what we call the YouTube generation, where everything you see on YouTube is just people were learning and they were scaling to that high of a level.
It's funny, right? Because I want like people to understand this, because you and I are like, it's funny, you and I, when we first met, like, of course we met because of real estate, but we connected, especially because when I found that you did breakdancing and you found out I did parkour,
right?
Like we just had like this understanding, because it's very, very similar worlds. And it's funny because I'm even starting to see some of the same trends that we pick up in the athletic space occurring in the real estate space, which is you see somebody do something, right? Via YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, wherever. And now the question of, is it possible, is thrown out the window, because you've already seen it be possible. And now it's just a matter of, what do I need to do that, right? Your mind has gained the exposure. And now because you've had the exposure, you know, a lot of people, I realize it's a trait. Some people say, oh, they did that, I can do that too. Other people say, wow, only they can do that.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like you were the type where you looked and you said, oh, that was done, I want to do that too, I can do that
Yeah.
too. So
100%.
so you start seeing all these videos, you start like getting tapped into YouTube, you start seeing people around. I think I know where this is going. It's funny because y'all don't know, like I've known Will for like a little over 2 years now. I'm like, this is the first time I'm actually finding out his backstory. So I'm genuinely curiously asking these questions.
Yeah.
So you start to see what's possible, right? And you see exposure to the rest of the world. What starts going on in your mind?
In my mind, I was getting excited because it was just so much fun, man. You just get to venture out into all these places, the opportunities that you just, the way I looked at it was just like breakdancing in general, just dancing was just like this underground thing where it's like, it's so cool that no one really knows about it. And if you do know about it, it's like, oh, you know, because I didn't get support from my parents. My parents may have like signed me up for day one class, but they didn't know the lifestyle was going to lead me towards. And essentially they were concerned because in dancing, when you're competing, you're not competing someone based on how old you are, you know, a 10-year-old versus a 20-year-old, for example. You're competing just based on your skill set.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. So like I was 13 years old competing against people who were 25 and older and winning.
Nice.
You know, like people would get mad, like, who are these kids? Like you're losing to a kid and all that. But no, it's you're putting on a skill set and you're competing, right? And so that's what I loved about it. There was no age barrier, there was no gender barrier, there's nothing. Like it's what you got and what you've been training for.
Bro, I love this. And like, you have no idea right now how hard my brain is like trying to fight against like pulling all of the correlations of like, I'm like, as you're explaining this, I'm like, dude, everything you're describing is all characteristics needed to succeed in business, needed to succeed in real estate and entrepreneurship. Like everything you were describing, right? The fact that age literally doesn't matter, that it's you versus another human based on skill. And that skill comes based off how much effort, time, and energy did you put into your practice. Really, like how much did you show up?
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So you start seeing this, your parents are like, oh my gosh, like they thought they were doing this like for a weekend, and they
it was a back and forth battle. Like it used to get really bad to like my dad, both my parents would get so involved to prevent me from certain opportunities. Like I've missed out on opportunities at a young age that, you know, I was like, I could look back and be regretful about it, but you know, it led me to where I am now anyway. So, you know, all are steps towards where you want to be or where you are right now. But yeah, it was definitely a challenge. I definitely say this: when you have support from your parents in any venture you do, you're going to excel way faster.
I would agree.
Way faster. And I'm glad I'm seeing that more now from like just new kids in general, or just people who just venture out into what they pursue anyways.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's interesting, right? Actually, some of the most successful individuals that I've had on this podcast actually tell me that they owe it to the support that they got from their parents. Actually, like one person that comes immediately to mind is Charles Weinrub, aka the Handsome Homebuyer.
Wow.
He speaks about how one thing that his family did so well for him, his mom, he said she literally beat confidence into me.
Wow.
He's like, you have no idea like how impossible it is for me to lose because of how much that woman has built me up. It's like, I cannot walk into a single situation with any sort of fear or doubt that like I won't make it work. Gary Vee, another prime example. Gary Vee has said like many, many times, like that his mom has just pushed so much self-confidence into him that he's like, look, even when I screw up, I'm still convinced that like I did something right.
Right.
And a lot of people can look at that and be like, wow, you're that conceited. No, I'm that confident. I'm that confident that the game's not over and I'm not going to stop until I win. So I like hearing that you have that, but you know, you didn't have it coming up. Like you recognize now that, you know, it is a piece that, you know, if someone has, that's a lot of fuel in the gas tank to go with.
Yeah. I mean, I was fortunate enough to have like my crew members, the people I was, you know, training with, where they wanted to see me excel, and they were with the confidence I didn't get from my parents, I received from them as like my secondary family. Right. And even that I had to, and I always know in general, to grow, you have to get uncomfortable. Right. And I, as a teenager, when the teenager's uncomfortable, they don't want to do anything. Right. And it feels like the world's ending. And that's what it felt like, even just throughout the years, even into like my early 20s as well, because and I won't like get sidetracked too much, but I had to always find ways to get uncomfortable, whether it be in my overall my style of dance and how I'm moving, so I don't want to look too stiff, or just the quality of movement, and like if my is my leg too straight here, or something like that, right? Even the way I was dressing as well, right? So I had to make sure like I'm always just kind of like, all right, I want to excel and I want to improve, but what does that mean, getting uncomfortable? And I really didn't know what that meant till I started actually doing things that got me uncomfortable. Like like even before getting into real estate, what I used to do in general, like, and this was like when I had a little college era of like, the partying days and all that stuff. I remember I had friends who didn't want to party or anything like that. And I'd say, I don't need them. I could go to a party myself. And I used to go to the clubs like almost every weekend by myself.
Let's go.
And I'll be like, yeah, I'm just gonna find someone there, and I'm gonna make fun, and I'm gonna find a group of friends there, and I'll have fun there like by myself. That's fine. I don't need the external validation to say like, okay, I'm gonna have fun because of these guys. No, I am source. I'm that source of energy.
Man, it's crazy. Like like everything you're describing right now, it's funny because again, like it's all the things needed to excel in business. And it's all the things that I've seen you actually funnel and channel into your entrepreneurial journey,
Right.
which has like been super impressive to watch because you've taken it and you've realized, all right, I built up a lot of foundational principles here,
Yeah.
right? I figured out things that like principles go across all boundaries, right? It's not just like, hey, this only works in dance. Like, no, this works everywhere. The fact that you're able to say, I know I need to get uncomfortable to grow. I know that the validation can't be an external thing. It's got to be an internal acceptance. I know that if the people around me aren't supporting me, that I need to move on and not let anything stop me. So, at any point, did your parents start to come around? Because that's a big thing, like not having the support of the family. At any point, did they realize like, yo, this Will just won't stop? Like he just is like stuck on. I don't know why he's still stuck on this, but he's stuck on it.
So I've been dancing for 15 years. And I'm gonna answer that part. I'm just gonna lead my way towards there.
Yeah.
So I've been dancing for 15 years. I remember even the first few years of dancing, and I was taking it very seriously, right? I'm talking about I'm 14 years old, and I'm like, I want to go to Europe. I want to go to Asia, right? For this high level of competition, because I had the ability.
Yep.
And my mom, I remember, pulled me to the side and said like, hey, your cousin's doing swimming classes and she's traveling the world for swimming. And like, you don't want to do something as athletic like that. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, like, I love you, Mom. But it's like, I wanted to punch a wall when I heard that. I was like,
but your cousin,
your cousin,
she's doing ballet now. Like, you sure you don't want to do ballet?
Actually, funny enough, funny, not to get too sidetracked, I actually got into my high school of choice through a dance program. They made me do ballet. And I remember I used to cut class, and someone stole my no, my my ballet shoes. And they're $30. That's expensive for a 14-year-old. Once that I dropped the program and I just kept going to high school like as a regular student. I was like, nah, I want to just break. I don't want to do ballet or none of this. But I was grateful for the experience because I did get uncomfortable, and it's like movement and cadence and things like that. It's not even till my later years I understand things like that. That I was like, oh, those were put in place there for a reason.
Right.
But yeah, so I had that moment happen with my mom. Fast forward, actually, right before I dived into real estate head on, I had a few series of unfortunate events where, I got kicked out of my apartment, like, and then had to find a new one within 2 weeks. About 4 weeks after that, I was just driving to go to someone's birthday, and a car hit me in a hit and run and totaled my car, right? And my mom wasn't around. She was like out of the country at the time. I didn't have like any family really except for my dad to call on, right? And even my friends at the time, they weren't answering, and I was getting mad. But one thing I was grateful for, because after that whole experience, like I could have reacted like very like, scared, shocked, whatever. I was just in the moment, I'm just like, I kept my composure, I kept my calm. But what I was grateful for is that when my dad showed up, he said, he was grateful. Obviously, I'm alive and I'm well, but he was saying like, you know what? He said he was wrong because of all the years that he was angry and upset that I pursued dancing. It was for the first time he said he was very proud of me because of the person I became.
Wow. Wait, so let me get this straight. I actually never knew this about you, man. So
Yeah.
it wasn't until after the accident, like when it occurred, that I guess he gets a phone call and like it occurs to him that,
Yeah, he
oh
comes
shit,
on the
like,
spot. Yeah,
yeah, something could have happened to my son.
yeah.
And if something had happened, the last memory would have been like, you know, essentially just me not being proud of you for something I actually should be proud of you for, like
Yeah.
the fact that you are pursuing your passion.
No.
And that's when the day switched around like that. So that was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's really cool, man.
Yeah, man. So I was extremely grateful. I was like, I never thought I'd hear that from my dad. That was like that was like a almost a hack into my subconscious where it's just like, oh, just things are just gonna get better from here, you know. But it just made me be more grateful for the character that I was at that point, and I'm, you know, I'm not even I forgot where I hear this quote. I'm not even in my final form.
You watch way too much anime. Like,
Yeah. I'm a huge anime nerd, man.
man, me too, bro.
But essentially that happened. And fast forward, I had a few little more unfortunate events happen. Like someone even broke into another car that I was driving, and we had to sell that for like $100. I was like in massive debt, and I had a really bad birthday. I had a wild experience on my birthday where I had a brand new car because I had to pay out of pocket, and then I even got arrested on my birthday.
I remember you told me that.
Yeah, and at that point, I was just like I don't know what I may have been, because what I tend to realize or what I've learned is that when there's a series of unfortunate events happening, and I'm playing a victim role, in a way, I'm kind of asking for this energy to happen because it's going to validate what I have thinking in my head. Like, oh, this, of course, this is going to happen to me.
I hope y'all listened to that. I hope y'all heard that, because what Will just said is something that a lot of people would never say who are going through rough times. Like, so many people don't take ownership of their shit. Like, it's things happen to us. It's on us, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
I got hit by a drunk driver. My mom got paralyzed. My cat got kicked. My sister's sick. COVID happened. Like, you got to find a way to take ownership for it, because if you play the victim, you're putting that energy out there, and like attracts like. You will continue to attract more situations that put you in the role of victim if that's who you choose to be.
Yeah.
So let me make sure I got this straight. We're starting off with 10-year-old, no friends. Hey, found breakdancing, let's get into it. You know, I'll become super popular, but still don't quite become popular. But then you get on to Teen Titans, you start figuring this thing out, you start pursuing it, but now your family, you become this black sheep in the family, essentially.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're still pursuing it regardless, although like everyone's kind of saying like, hey, Will, when are you going to do something real with your life?
Yeah.
You know, they're still just not seeing it. And then you have these series of unfortunate events where your car is getting totaled, you know, things are happening, terrible birthday, you actually get arrested, you're piling on debt, like just bad debt. And, you know, where do you find yourself at? Because like, to me, that sounds like rock bottom, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just being honest. Like, that sounds like rock bottom.
Yeah. At that time is when I actually, so leading up to those series of unfortunate events, and even like when I had just probably the year leading up to that, my friend he called me up out of nowhere. He was actually one of my first mentors who taught me how to dance. And he said, do you want to focus on how to get girls, or do you want to focus on your money? Right. And I was like, I want to focus on my money, man. Like, you know, yeah, I don't want to work this job. I want to get out of here. So read this book. And he sent me the title of the book, which was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And prior to that book, I never read or listened to a book intentionally. Maybe in high school, like Catcher in the Rye or something like that. But other than a textbook, I just never read. I was like, it's boring. I know it's not my thing. But then I was like, I'm going to listen to the audiobook, but, you know, bought that one free book that came with the app. And I'm listening to it every day as I'm driving to work. And as I'm listening to it, I'm like, I don't know if I'll be able to focus because it's like, you know, a boring voice. Audible can have that happen, right? But
it happens still.
The content that was being said in the book, it just started. You know, it's like you ever see a video game and then you're just like, I have to get serious. I have to sit up, and it's like, whoa. It's like I'm just like, whoa.
Catching your breath.
Yeah, I had to catch my breath. I was like, wow, because what he was saying in the book was completely right. Like how you can just like achieve financial freedom. You know, you don't have to, you know, there's the concept of the rich dad and your poor dad, what was taught, what wasn't taught. financial principles. And as I'm reading, as I'm listening to this book every day, I'm actually don't do this no one should be doing this when they're driving, but I was writing out word for word on my phone while driving to work. So I could just go back and read my notes. But I'm talking about I probably wrote the whole book. I must have wrote 50 pages of the whole book.
Yo, no one's as bad as Kevin. No, real quick, shout out to Kevin's show. No one's as bad as him. Kevin is one day we're driving, we're in Vegas like 2 weeks ago. As we're driving down the road, Kevin's like, oh my God, that's so good. Like what you're saying. He starts, I'm like, what are you doing, Kevin? He's like reaching, pulls out a notepad, grabs a pen. And while we're driving, he is just straight up. I'm like, Kevin, do you want me to take notes for you? Do you want me to drive? So you start taking notes while you're driving, like, but it's so impactful.
Yeah, it's
right?
so impactful, man.
Just I know that feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny. We always say, like, you want to hide a secret, put it in a book.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you want to hide a secret from the world, put it in a book. Yep. So many people won't tap into it. So you start reading this book, and what happens?
Essentially, well, I mean, we're in this day and age where, you know, Instagram, your phones will hear what you're listening to or watching. So I was promoted a Robert Kiyosaki real estate seminar for free, you know, to go and attend. So I probably went to about 2 or 3 of them. It wasn't until about the third one where I just said, you know what, I can't do this by myself.
Wait. Who else knows this, right? Who else knows that feeling of like, hey, I can't afford the full seminar.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep riding the free seminar.
Exactly.
Like going to the food court and making a laps. Like, yo, if you didn't.
Or like Costco, the free samples. Yeah.
If you didn't make the Costco free sample laps or the food court laps, like you grew up too rich. Like you don't get that reference right there. You had a really good life. Thank your parents if you never had to make laps at the food court.
Yeah.
All right. So you're making laps at the
yeah. It was 3 of them. Yeah. I probably the first 2 I went with friends and I said, yo, should we split it? But they're like, nah, they're trying to sell us on something. And I was like, oh, man, because I wanted to go for it. It wasn't until the 3rd one I went by myself and I just said, you know, it hasn't been working out. I'm just going to go for it. Right. I paid the $500. And this is actually where the campfire effect kind of takes when I think about you, when I think of the campfire effect, because what happened was I even have some friends who just at the time weren't going through the best of times either. Right. Mm-hmm. I offered a friend of mine to attend because I get a free guest to go to the seminar, and none of my friends wanted to come. Actually, one friend said he would, but then he ended up just going out the night before and just, you know, partying and getting, you know, drunk and all that. And just, he wasn't going to make it. So regardless, I was grateful because I went by myself. And I remember I was going we went to Times Square in the city where they had the seminar, and every morning I remember I woke up 2 hours earlier just to it felt like I was going on a mission because I was on a mission to change my life, you know?
Ooh, a man on a mission to change his life. And I feel you, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'm starting to like this, that you have this ability to, you know, it's like you want to bring people along. However, you are not allowing them being in park to prevent you from driving.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're like, because a lot of people will say like, yeah, but no one around me ever wants to go. Yeah. Yeah. Like, no, but I couldn't get anyone to go with me. Right. You are even in a place where you're like, yo, financially, like I can really just use somebody to come in to split the cost with me. Like literally like thinking from it as a practical, like I don't even need you to change. I just need your wallet to help me get into this room. And even when no one's saying it, after 2 times of your friends trying to talk you out of it, you are so determined on like, no, I'm changing my situation. I'm going to go through this alone. And at that point, this is now the lap where you and I actually met, right? This is that room. Yeah, we entered that room. And I honestly, I was so oblivious to what was going on because I thought that was like the last part of the train ride with these seminars. And, you know, they always try to get you with more. It don't stop, y'all. It never stops. But I remember at the end of the 3 days, I wanted to go for those large packages they were offering, right? Because I believed in the product, I believed in the education, but I could only afford like. Bro, I can sign you up right now. No, you're like no. Which path? Do you which path? Oh God, that's a classic. I love that one. But yeah, I was only able to afford $1,500 on a credit card, and I was already maxing out the credit card with that alone. Wait, so let me understand this. I just want to make this clear for everybody. You paid to go to an event to learn about real estate. When you got to that event, they taught you about real estate, and then they also taught you that, hey, we need to teach you more, and you need to buy a bigger package in order to learn more. In which case, you already didn't have enough money to get into the room. and you chose to still buy a bigger package. You paid $500 that you didn't have to get into the room. And before you left that room, you paid another $1,500 to get into another room.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. Do you feel any source of regret for that decision?
No, not at all.
I want to hear that. Like, I want people, because there are people that are still on the fence where I grew up like, man, like these guys are trying to sell me something. Like, I hate it. Like, why are they're trying to rip me away from my money?
Yeah.
Right? I wish I would have done that much sooner. Your life starts to change when you do things differently. Everything inside of me said, don't do it. Yeah. Everything inside of me said, don't do it. But I know that going back would have been the same life I just left. So let's get back into your story, bro. Because
yeah, definitely. I wanted to add a little more to it, just even to that weekend. So I'm still working a full-time job even at that time, right? But what I was also doing, I was working probably 2 to 3 other. For those who don't know, I have to speak Spanish on my job. So Marlon knows a little Spanish from now every here and now. But I had 3 other jobs outside of my main job, which was I worked for the New York Knicks out after I got out of my regular job.
Yep.
I did performances on the weekends for like bar mitzvahs and kids and weddings and all that. And then sometimes I'd be, hired for commercial gigs. So like I've been in a few music videos, a J Balvin music video. There's like some commercials by what's the Ray J's brand. Okay. I forgot his headphone brand. Did a commercial for him. Like I've done just a variety of jobs.
For Olay, bro?
No,
I'm just saying, you got the silky smooth.
I auditioned for L'Oreal, but they didn't call me. They didn't call me.
Yo, they messed up, man.
Yeah. Messed out. Now, peep this. I was hired. They actually wanted me to perform for ASAP Ferg.
Yeah, I'll shoot.
The same weekend as the real estate seminar.
Get out of here.
And I asked if I can just show up after the seminar, and I had to make a decision. And I said, I'm gonna go for the real estate seminar. I'm like going.
Let's go. So I want to like highlight this. Yo, what up, Kamal? Hi, what up, Ingrid? And what up, Steven? They just hopped on IG. I can like see their names. Those are some special names. Like,
of course,
I can see it from across the room. Like Ingrid and like Kamal, like you guys don't get to come on IG and not like be shouted out by me. So we're in a situation where you had an opportunity to go get a paid gig for ASAP Ferg, where you would have been able to meet him, you would have been able to hang out with different people, network, do what you love doing, which is breaking, which is dancing. And instead you gave that up to spend money.
Yeah.
To spend money to go be in a room where you might learn something that could or couldn't change your life. You really don't know because you've never been in this room before like that.
Yeah. 1000%.
That's crazy. So you bet on yourself, you get into real estate, you pay the $1,500 to go to the next level. And then from there, the deals just start sliding in, and like you're just like,
no, not right away.
No,
not right away.
This is how it works, right? Because this is how everybody that makes all those like reviews online about how this doesn't work, they're mad because like they were expecting the deals to come in, but the deals just come in like
not the next day.
No, what?
Not at all.
What did you spend more money? Because I spent more money, man. Like the deals coming right away. If you spend more money, like that's how you make the deal.
Well, you just closed on the deal today, so so
nice deal.
That's a great deal.
But like, it takes time. So like, let's. I want to hear, right? So you sign the 1,500. You're in, right? First off, how are you feeling immediately after you give up your money? Like you let go of your money, you hand off your credit card, they swipe it, you realize like, damn, I just got charged. How did you feel in that moment? Because I want to let people know like what to expect in that phase. Because it's funny, we never talk about this, but I think this is actually a really important conversation because I know I had some feelings, but I'm curious to know how you felt.
I felt completely scared. I felt completely alone. And I felt also completely like determined. Like there was just this fire that just like right now is like, I need to act on this, because what happened was, and you remember they gave us homework to do right away the next day. I didn't hesitate. I remember they said, start calling people, the for sale by owners, the realtors, whoever you have. Here's a script they'll give you, they'll provide some help. And I remember I was probably hesitating maybe like 5 minutes. I was at work and I was just sneaking away, and I was like, I'm just going to make this call. and I made the call and I just followed the script. And actually, I didn't even need the script. It was just kind of becoming natural after a while. And I was just like, oh, that was easy. I was like, oh, and I was just getting better and better. And I'm talking about within the same week.
Yup.
Within the same week. And I must have been absorbing so much content, because even same thing, how I was typing on my phone while listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was typing word for word on the course education that they were providing that we had access to. And I spent nights, endless nights, just very little sleep, because I just want to make sure I got this information. Like, all my free time has to go towards this, right? I even put dancing on the side, because I realized I couldn't enjoy dancing with this block over my head of financial stress, emotional stress, right? Things I can't do as an average person. I can't enjoy life. I'm working 3 jobs, right? So I needed to make sure that was like removed, so I couldn't be at the best of my ability in my dance career.
Yo, let's talk about that for a second. And yo, yeah, today might be a long episode just because
Yeah.
I don't often get to have my guests be in the same room with me, one. And then two, it's normally not people that like I'm this cool with, right? Where it's like me and Will go back. I've spent a lot of time talking with him. Like, I've spent a lot of time getting to know him over the years. And what we're tapping into is actually some real stuff that I just don't hear people talking about often. So if you're on IG right now, share this out with some people. If you're on Facebook, I got no clue because I can't see you right now. But if you're on Facebook and you're enjoying this, share this out, leave some comments. But Will, you start gaining the skills, you start doing the work, right? You start just putting yourself into it. And you said something where you recognized you couldn't even enjoy breakdancing at this moment in your life because you had this financial like weight hanging over you, like just hanging by a string, waiting to drop at any moment. And I want to dive into that for a split second, because that's something that, you know, I was actually writing a chapter on, like, in my next course on this last night, which is the slavery of debt, right? Where it's like debt or is like it's modern day slavery.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and it does the same thing. It takes away from people, but it does so slowly, kind of like the analogy of like the lobster or the crab boiling in the pot of water. By the time it realizes what's happening, it's too late. Right. So you start to feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm caught in this vortex and I can't even juggle and try to do 2 things right now. Like, I just need to focus on getting out of this vortex. Like, that's the only thing that matters, because or else everything else is like, you just know this thing is constantly looming behind you.
Yeah, 100%. It was like all these opportunities that were coming my way at the same time as I was going through this. I still participate in those opportunities because I believe take out every opportunity that you get, right? Say yes to almost every opportunity you can. But at that point, it wasn't smart because my performance as I was dancing was just like, even if you don't understand what you're seeing in terms of breakdancing, you could see in someone's physical character, even their face or just their expression, that they got something heavy going on.
Yep.
And that's what I was told I had. Like, you just look like there's something heavy going on with you. It wasn't until what happened was, actually, let's fast forward a bit, because that's 2019 going into 2020, COVID happens, right? And I remember, man, I was actually one of the first few people who caught COVID in that time when it broke out in March. I remember.
That was COVID last week at Clever Summit. He admitted it right here.
No. We tested negative, all right, right before we got on shoot today. But yeah, so I caught COVID, and at that time that was scary actually, because we didn't, there was no information whatsoever. I honestly thought that was never going to come here. I'm pretty sure everyone thought, I was like, oh yeah, it's on Instagram, or it's over there in China. It's like, it's never going to come here, right? What ended up happening was I took that time to take a pause from everything. I was actually grateful for it. And, you know, obviously God bless everyone who's lost their lives and the loved ones that we've missed, you know, because of COVID. I know it's had its negative impacts, but it's had its positive as well, where it took a complete pause in my whole lifestyle, where I just was able to just kind of restart and rebuild myself from there. Because at that point, I just started learning. I picked up on every personal self-development book I could pick up, psychology, business, sales. And even before we were connecting, I was making cold calls, hand dialing 7 to 8 hours a day. I didn't even know how to skip trace. I was using some website that gave you 5 numbers per name per address. And I was just there, and I'm just like, and I'm hearing these podcasts like Max Maxwell, Wholesale Hotline had actually just started at the time, like first episode around that time.
Dang, yo, he's
And
an OG on Wholesale Hotline.
yeah, before they even started, I remember, and they were said, yeah, they'd make 7 to 8 hour calls. They'll start at 8 a.m. and they'll end. That's because they were so determined. But I didn't have structure. I didn't have the correct information. I didn't have the right community around me.
That's big. That's really big, actually, because even check it out, because we always talk about the campfire effect. We always talk about squatting up. Shout out Pace Morby for even like introducing that and coining that term in our industry. And Warren Buffett, arguably one of the best investors alive currently, right? Regardless of, what industry you're in, Warren Buffett like literally is outperforming almost everybody. Says what matters more than how hard you row is which boat you're in. Right? Because sometimes like we're rowing so hard, like, so you said you didn't have the structure, right? That's the equivalent of being in like a small little dinghy that has a freaking hole in the back, plus you're pointing in the wrong direction. Versus now, if you start getting some proper information, some proper systems, being around the right people, you find yourself in a different boat with a bigger motor moving in the right direction that can chop through the waves.
Yeah.
So you're out there, you're hustling, you're grinding, you're making these calls, hand dialing, by the way, hand dialing. So for everyone that's like, yo, I can't afford a dialer, homeboy was hand dialing. And I remember those days. Shout out to that, bro, because I used to be there on a Google Voice number, straight up, 8 a.m. in the morning starting, when it stopped till about 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And I was just like, yo.
We could curse on here, right? Is that all right?
I mean, yeah, we can.
Okay, because the amount of fuck yous I got
my God.
in that time frame, it was like that built me up more than anything.
Bro, that's one thing, Loki, when people, I recommend if you have the opportunity to cold call for at least a week, at minimum, like a straight 40-hour week cold calling, do it. Yeah. Because I always say to people, like, that's one of the things, like, people are like, I hate cold calling. I'll say, I like cold calling for what it did for my confidence. Yeah. Because at some point, like, it really doesn't faze you anymore that people don't, like, that people come at you angry. Yeah. It really doesn't faze you. So I gotta ask a question, bro. Did you ever get like one of the, like, I gotta bring this up because like it hit me personally, bro. I one day got like maybe like my 60th or like 70th fuck you in a row, right? Like all the calls are just like F you, F you, F you. Yeah. Like, so I didn't get anything nice yet. Yeah. And I was still pretty early on in this game. Right. And I just remember I put the phone down. And I just thought, I was just like, oh, shit, am I about to cry? And I was like, I literally asked myself, I'm like, am I a bad person? I have to be a bad person. That's the only reason this many people would be telling me to go F myself. And, you know, later on, I realized it's just a part of the process, but I got to deal with that. And I don't know where else I would have been able to have that exposure to that so that my skin could literally get tougher. Like, I literally like can now put up a guard. Right. I can take it off whenever I want, but I can put it up whenever I need. Yeah. And that's important. 100%. That was, if anything, I remember the first few, I was like, I was calm, because, you know, they'll warn you, even sometimes you'll hear about it, but there were sometimes I didn't have the patience that I did, and I'd curse back, or I'd hang up, or I'd call them back 20 times just to piss them off, because I was just like, there's no way this guy's gonna curse me out right now, and all I'm asking is about a property. Like, there's no way. But moving on from that, moving on. What happened was I heard that concept, Squat Up, right, from Wholesale Hotline, Pace and Jamil and Brent, and you were actually the first person I contacted. I know why you're laughing, because you know what, I'm gonna bring it up. So I contacted you, and I was like, hey bro, we should squat up. And he's like, yeah, let me ask my partner about that. I'll get back to you. And you know, you guys were close at the time, right? So I was like, okay. Never got back to me. All right, but you know, I still kept doing my calls, and then I still connected with some of the other day ones that we started with. So it wasn't the end over there, and you were still part of everything we had going on. So if anything, it was gonna happen regardless. We were gonna squat up. Honestly, actually, I gotta give a big shout out to you, bro. Really, like, in all realness, man, you actually, and it's like in hindsight, I'm thinking about this, you actually are the one that really pulled me in, right? Like, I actually would have, you see, like, you know, my personality type. It's actually very easy for me to isolate myself, right? And for me to kind of stay in my own little island. And because you kept following up with me, you kept reaching out, you kept extending a hand. I was like, yo, bro, like, come do this. Like, seriously, like, it took like me 7 times to really like be like, wow, Will like is actually like legitimately like you're consistent. You're always there, man. Like, and I appreciated that so much that like it made me come in a little bit more. And because of that, that's when I connected with you. That's why I really started connecting with Maurice, Raphael, like the whole squad. Like, that's when like the Northeast really started to form together. And, like, I came into that. Like, I didn't create that. I came into it. I got to be a part of it at the early stages, but you guys put that together. So shout out to you.
Oh, thank you, man. No, you were definitely a part of it all, if anything. And yeah, all those people, Tanisha, Angie, Raphael, Maurice, all, like if anyone I'm shy, all these guys, all these people, they were all there for it, you know. And you were right, we were a superpower. And it was just crazy how much of a force we still are, you know. We just obviously now we're focused on certain niches at this point.
Bro, we squad up hard, y'all. Like, I'm not gonna front, like the Northeast, like, yo, I'm out here in AZ now. Like, AZ is cool, yo. I love y'all. I really do. That's why I live here. But the Northeast is legit. Like, I don't care what anybody, like, nobody's touching.
There's like a certain, there's a grit that comes that we have that I don't think people understand, because not to mention we in the Northeast, it's a tough market in terms of real estate. It's tough in terms of the people.
Yep.
It's tough in terms of even financial like situations. And people here are just like, there's this grit that you're just not going to give up, you know, or at least not so easily.
Yo, there's something, not like it's not at all. Like, it's straight up like, yo, we might get beat down. We might get knocked down. We might get frustrated. We might get pissed off, but we don't stop.
Yeah.
Like, we always come back. And when we come back, like, we innovate. Like, and it's actually really cool to see, because I've traveled around and I've seen different environments, and we definitely hold it down. So I'm not going to go on to a tangent on how awesome the Northeast is, how amazing being from New York is. Like, like, but for real though, like, it is cool. So we squad up, we start squatting up, we start getting together, right? So you're early in the real estate, you're sneaking off to make calls on the side, and you know, you're watching Wholesale Hotline, you're taking in as much information as humanly possible, as much as like you could keep your eyes open in the day. You know, what point did things start to change? Like, at what point, because like now you're making these calls, right? Were you just, now that you're making the calls, banging out deals? Like, I guess, where did the first deal come from? Like, when did that start to happen?
So we had joint, Pace had just came out. I've never heard of this guy before. I was like, who is this guy? I was like, I don't care. Maurice sends me forward his information. He's doing a 16-hour Facebook Live, which I thought was pretty cool, right? But I was like, I don't know if I should get into that, because I should just get first good at wholesaling and then learn that later. But as I'm learning everything he's going on, I'm like, it's like Neo taking the red pill versus the blue pill, bro. I was like, wow. And I remember that I sent you his information too. And
do you remember my side of the story from like?
No, I don't actually.
So I don't know if I ever told you this, because I told everybody else this. I don't think I've ever told you this. When you called me that night, it's like 10 o'clock at night. Everyone knows I'm grandpa. I go to bed early. Like, I do not stay up late.
Right.
You're like, bro, you got to get on Facebook right now. I'm like, dude, it's 10 o'clock. I want to go to sleep. No. You need to go on Facebook right now.
Yeah.
There's this dude. He's breaking down creative finance. Like, he's in front of a whiteboard. He's going live for like 16, 24 hours. Like, you need to get on this right now. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? You were actually so animated about the whole situation that like I went against like my own will, and I was just like, let me see what Will's so excited about.
Yeah.
And I open up my computer, and lo and behold, there's this dude standing in front of a whiteboard talking about creative financing. And as dead tired as I was, my ass stayed awake for the next like, I stayed up till like 8 o'clock in the morning the next day.
Oh my God.
Watching just like this guy go live. So to your point, that was fire, right? Shout out Pace Morby.
Yeah.
Like, really, that was insane. I'd never seen anything like that before. So you find Pace, you find him doing Creative Finance Live, and what happens?
Not too long after, he opens a mentorship, right? And
thanks for telling me about that.
I was one of the first, it was like less than 40 people. It was only like 36, 37 people, I remember, that first signed up day one, that were like even in a Facebook group that we were all a part of. I remember you guys said, it was like, you guys joined? I didn't get in yet. I was like, oh man.
Hold on. See, I'm here to give you the factual information, because what really happened here, the next day we're in the group chat. It's like 2 days later. and they're like, yo, that Zoom paste just did was fire. Boom, 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 like emojis, like boom, mind blown. And I'm just like, wait, he's back on Facebook Live right now?
No.
And they're just like, oh, nah, bro. We joined the mentorship. Yo, like, did you ever like want to go do something like maybe like you're like, I want to go to Six Flags, I want to go to Europe, I want to go do something, and like you're telling everybody about it, and you're like, yo, this would be so dope. And then like a few days later, they're coming back and they're like, oh yeah, we already got our tickets, and we're already in it. We already got the flights booked. Like, I didn't know you would be down for this. So they all joined the mentorship. So FOMO kicks in heavy for me, heavy. Like I'm just like pulling out my credit card, like trying to call somebody. Like I'm getting into this mentorship. I'm a little man. I don't like being left out of things. But I feel like I'm being left out, like I'm on it. And what was so crazy is after I joined in, like I dropped the bread. I dropped like 700-800. And this was after I vowed that like I'm not buying a new course until like I master the one I'm currently in. Right? I'm like, I'm not joining anything. All right, $700-800 later, I'm not joining anything else. I come to find out months later, on accident in a conversation, that all these assholes, 4 of them, signed up together and split that, where I paid the entire thing out of my pocket, where I could have been a part of that. But it's all good now. It's all good.
It's all good.
Right? I walked into that room alone, all right? I walked into that room alone. So you guys signed up without me.
We signed up. Yeah, we signed up, and
did you feel bad about that? You left me out.
I felt bad the first week, but then once you got in, it was all right. It's nothing to feel bad about. We get in, and he starts teaching us, and he's like, all right, if you don't have a budget, what are you going to do to get some deals? Free marketing. Why don't you contact other wholesalers whose deals fell through and help them close them? Help solve their problems as well. And I was just like, oh, interesting, right? And we'd go on, not to give too much, but the way you market, you'll go on different Facebook groups, connect with different wholesalers, right? Depending on what you put out is what you get in terms of a response. And what I was doing was a little bit different, and it still works even to this day a bit, where what I would do is I would go to a specific market, right? Let's just say I went to Florida, Atlanta, San Diego, it doesn't matter which one. I'd go to that, search up on Facebook, let's say Florida real estate investor network Facebook group, whatever it was, right? And I would write in the post, I would say something relating to that city. So for example, if I was in Atlanta, I'd say, hey, you know what? I partnered up with someone who loves Outkast, who loves Goody Mob, who loves being in Atlanta, loves all these guys and wants to buy at this percentage of value for properties. If you guys don't have any deals, or if you guys have deals that people were asking too much, let's go back, let's help you guys out, and let's partner up. Let's put some money in your pocket. And funny enough, I didn't even have wholesalers reach out to me. I had a few, but it was mainly sellers were contacting me, trying to sell me their properties on Facebook Messenger.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Check this out. Yo, like I didn't even know that, gem. Like I didn't know how specific you were doing with like getting local in the market. That's a gem right there. Like you just made, somebody listening just made probably like an extra 20K off of that right there. So make sure you send Will some like sushi money. Right. So you were doing that.
I was doing that, and I was getting a whole lot of responses from sellers, and I was on the phone. I remember I got a 24 unit portfolio deal that I didn't even know what to do with, right? And that deal didn't end up working out. But what ended up happening was people were putting out a lot of similar Facebook messages, but nothing like mine, right? And what ended up happening was one wholesaler shared it in a Facebook group chat that I was in, and said like, hey, are all you guys writing like the same message or something, right? And then another wholesaler read the post itself from that message, and he's like, oh, I have a deal. It didn't work. It's not going to work as wholesale. Yeah, take it. And it was a deal out in West Virginia.
I remember West Virginia.
Yeah, it was a deal out in West Virginia. I remember I spent weeks building rapport with the seller, and I explained them what subject to was. I explained them what seller finance was. I explained them that I can't pay you cash, but you know what? I want to give you the value you're looking for. Why don't we do payments instead? And I'll take over the debt you have in place. And he was like, yeah, 100%. And I remember I asked him, what did he want as a down payment? He's like, I'll just take like something like first month's rent, $700. And I was like, all right, this.
Who else gets, so for all those people like, yo, you can't get like low down payments. He's got a $700 down payment on a house. Like, think about what your ROI is. If it's renting for $700 and it only costs you $700 to get into the deal, in the very first month you make your money back. Think about what your ROI is.
No.
So you get your first deal.
I get my first deal. So many things went wrong.
I remember.
So many things went wrong.
I remember, matter of fact, there was a day we were out door knocking and you were on the phone with
I was stressed that day. Stressed. Because what ended up happening was I was marketing to sell the deal, right? I was gonna have a family move in, put a down payment, and cover the monthly payments plus, extra on top to make my cash flow. I had one family who committed, but then they backed out and disappeared out of nowhere. And what ended up happening was I had one person ready to go. He was like, he wanted this house. He really wanted this house. I wanted to help him out. And what he ends up doing is he goes to the house. I have great rapport with the sellers too. So they're actually helping me have other people come in and walk them through the house themselves. This guy goes to the house and he tries to make a deal with the sellers themselves. And they're not, I'm not disrespected. They weren't the brightest in terms of like what was going on.
Bro, you used to call them. What you used to call them? Oh my gosh.
We're not gonna say that right now.
That'll be for the after hours.
At the after hours show.
IG Live. Like,
yeah.
Will used to say some funny stuff. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh my God, man. So this guy tried to make a deal with my sellers, and they were gonna move forward with the deal, right? And I was like, I'm under contract, you guys. You guys can't do that. I go get a memorandum filled out. I record and document that stuff, because shout out to Pace, because he showed me how to do that. He told me exactly what to do. And what ends up happening is we get to the day of closing, and that guy on the phone, right? I'm sorry, even before we got to the day of closing, he calls me up and he says, like, I just made a deal with the sellers. You're just a glorified real estate agent and you're not going to get this house. And then hung up on me, right? Day of closing happens, right? The attorney tells them they have to go to closing because you have a signed document and you guys agreed to move forward, right? And I reconnected with the sellers, so they understood they're going to go and sign for closing. They go and sign for closing, and that guy shows up to closing, right? And he tries to make a deal, like draw up the paperwork on the spot with that same attorney who I already filed with, right? And the attorney's looking at him like an idiot. It's like, you can't do a deal right now. These guys are already under contract. They're scheduled to close right now. Here's the documents they have to sign with this guy, me, right? Will. And what ends up happening is I close, I get the deal done, right? I finally closed my first deal, and he calls me up and he says, oh, I'm so sorry, man. I didn't know you guys were already under contract.
Oh, get out of here.
Like, can we still work out a deal? It'll still be like this and like this and this. And then I just hang up on him. I just ignore it. You don't do business with snakes.
Nope.
Don't do business with snakes.
Yo, good stuff, bro.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people would have been tempted to like try and make it work. But like that's one of the biggest things. Like I want everyone to understand this. If you have a bad vibe about people, if people show you who they are, you do not try to change people. Be happy that they showed you their fangs and move on.
Yeah.
Like, don't be desperate, because that energy creates terrible results. When you start putting out desperate energy, bad things happen. Like, you just have to be able to walk away. There's actually so much strength. Actually, a lot of you, what we do in sales is like that ability of just like literally being able to say like, F it to the deal. Like, you know what? I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely, like, I'm here to help. If you won't let me help, if I can't help, I will walk away. I'm going to go help someone I can. Yeah. Someone that wants it. So you sign the contract, you get the deal closed, you now own a property. How crazy is it, by the way? Like, you own a property now at this point, and you still got debt going on. You still got like everything in your life happening, but you own a house now. Like, you actually are a homeowner. I
own a piece of property.
And on top of that, you took over somebody else's mortgage. Yeah. Complete strangers, people that you've only ever met over the telephone. Yeah. How wild.
It was pretty wild, man. And it actually, even leading up to the closing, my ego was going crazy, like super scared. Like, what are you doing? You should have never got into real estate. Like, what are you doing getting a deal in a state like this and virtually? Like everything in my mind, my ego was telling me like everything was out of fear. Like, why are you going through this? But that's part of what's gonna happen when you go through a new experience that's actually good for you.
Yep.
Your ego is gonna be scared and you really don't know what you're getting yourself into, but you know it's for the better.
Bro, that is the most true thing. That's literally, I tell people this all the time. Like, I get scared with basically every single deal like I have. Like, I'm talking, like, I got deals right now. I got properties that I own right now. I have deals that are in contract right now. I have like all of them until they are closed. A part of me is like a little nervous. Like, I'm just keeping it real. Like, I'm really, like, you even saw me today with like that deal. It's like, but you start to get better. Where it's like, I actually wasn't freaking out as much. Like, today I'll just like, I was like, yo, bro, this deal could potentially fall apart and blow up in my face. And if that does happen, then I not only am I out of luck, like I literally have to come up with a new plan. And Luciano at the table, at like the lunch table today, was asking me like, well, what would be your plan B? Had you asked me a couple of months ago, I would have been like, I don't have a plan B. But now, because we keep evolving, we keep learning new things, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, man, I would just do this. I'll do a rate and term refi. I'll take over the property. I'd maybe take a couple $1,000 loss on the front end, but then I'd go and wrap this property to a homeowner, get them to come in, get their down payment to replenish the money I put into it. Boom, 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 boom. All this stuff only comes from putting yourself in the game.
Yeah.
So you put yourself in the game, although everything's trying to talk you out of it, you commit. You are now a homeowner, and you just like X'd out the only buyer that you had that like really wanted this thing. You just hung up the phone on him.
Pretty much. The way I even profited from that deal itself was I actually connected with someone who was in the mentorship as well.
Let's go.
Right. He lived, shout out to one of my partners, Curtis Eden.
Curtis, shout out to Curtis. Curtis is fire.
He came out, he connected with me, and essentially we did a creative deal where, you know what, he'll fix up the property. We'll get it out on the market, or if not, we'll at least have it rented out. But he'll pay me basically like an assignment fee, and just for even bringing the deal and bringing this property because it's in a market that he actually wants to be in.
Yep.
And I got paid out about close to $10,000, right?
Ooh, and so $10K on your first deal?
I was like, yeah, $10K on my first deal. I was like,
it's my first deal.
And I was I was just like, oh, this is crazy. But the journey doesn't even like it doesn't end there with a smiley face, because essentially that like there was a period of time when people go through this, you have a drought of like no deals coming in, right?
It happens.
And at that period of time, I remember what I did was I still didn't have a lot of budget. I didn't want to use up all the money I had anyways, and I didn't have a team or anything. So what I went and did was I went and I was basically 5 other people's acquisitions people.
That's right. That was back when you were calling for Jacques. You were calling for
John, Curtis as well. I think a few other people. I can't remember. Like at least 5, minimum 5 people. I was calling all of their leads, and it got to a point where I wasn't generating so much my own leads, but I remember I spent 12 hours on the phone from, what was it? It was about, I was talking from about 7 a.m.
Yep.
till about 7 p.m.
I remember those days.
I didn't have lunch. I got 3 contracts in that day. And I remember at the end of the night, my jaw was physically hurting from talking so much. I'm talking about, I didn't even stop to drink water. I'm back. Like when I say calls were back to back for 12 hours straight, I wish you, like, I wasn't exaggerating. We're talking about 15, 30-minute phone calls, on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one.
Ooh, come on now. So like, I want everyone to see like, this is like coming full circle, because the same sort of focus, the same sort of discipline and energy that you put into breaking is now finding its way into your real estate endeavor. Yeah. Right? You are at a place where, although the cards are stacked against you, you're not allowing any of them to act as an excuse to stop.
Yeah.
Right? You're actually just saying, okay, what do I need to do now? Oh, cool. I got no money for a budget. Great. I'm gonna go on Facebook and find leads. Oh, great. My only buyer walked away. I'm gonna squat up and find another investor. I'm gonna sell to another investor and actually make a pretty sizable payday on this deal that no one else could get done. Right? Yeah. On a deal that the seller wants too much money for. Then I still don't have leads, right? Because like I still just don't have that much money. I'm gonna go and actually work on other people's leads for them and go make money that way. So my overhead is nothing. It's just sweat equity.
Yeah.
That's fire, bro.
I remember I was a little down even going down approach because you were telling me it's like, well, where's your business? And that was the wake up call actually, was like, where is my own business? Where am I generating my own leads? But I realized there's stepping stones, and you have to be resourceful, because at the end of the day, that's how you got to survive in this business for the most part.
Yeah, and let's actually talk about that for a second, because I've actually been playing with this thought recently, and I picked it up from Alex Ramosi.
Yeah.
And he said
Love
something along the lines of, what he and his team do, they do sit down and they create these big lofty goals and lofty dreams, right? However, every quarter or two, they recreate new dreams, and their rocks, their milestones to get towards those dreams are actually much, much smaller in comparison to the dreams, because he honors the small victories, right? Because he's like, yo, we need these small victories to keep stacking, because if the only way I'm going to be happy is when I get to the top of the mountain, I got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be a long time, and I might get too depressed before you can get there to make it there.
Yeah.
So the fact that you were like, you know what, these are stepping stones. I'm going to actually do this now as a way of keeping going, but I'm not taking my eye off the ultimate prize, which I got to say, shout out to you, bro, because you have been very consistent with what you wanted. Since the day I met you, you've known what you've wanted.
Yeah.
Like, you straight up, like, you're just like, no, I'm like, this is what I want. This is why I'm here. And you're not afraid to admit it to anybody, including yourself.
Yeah. So I kept on moving from there. What ended up happening was essentially, even when it comes to just overall general success, you could attain whatever financial status it is, but if there's not a lot of internal work that comes along with it, then you're going to feel empty, and there's always going to be like a step you feel like you skipped. There's a level in the game you didn't get back to, right? And that's what ended up happening actually probably within the past year or so, because I probably went through some of my highest and lows within this past year, where I'm building up traction in real estate. I have a small team going on right now, right? And shout out to my team, obviously. And I'm getting back into the competitive circuit of dancing again. Like my debt's gone, my bills are paid. I'm living well for the most part, at least, paying my rent and not having to worry about anything else, right? And I'm getting back into competing again at a very high level, like just kind of going straight for it. And I'm actually, I get performance anxiety when I compete, and it doesn't show on my face. I kind of have to turn on this face where people tell me it's like, you just look like a different guy. Like, funny enough, when I was flown out to Taiwan one year in 2019, and it was New Yorkers versus their Taiwan dancers. And someone said like, oh my God, he looks so tough. He's like such a New Yorker, so gangster. I'm like, if anyone knows me, I'm not a gangster. I'm not a thug whatsoever, but I could put on that persona in my dance because these are aspects in like hip hop. I love hip hop, right? Oh. So I'm competing at a high level, and I'm getting traction in my real estate business. But what ends up happening is I get invited to go to a competition sponsored by Red Bull, right? And it's the USA National Finals. For those who don't know, Red Bull sponsors a competition, and the World Finals is called Red Bull BC1, and they host it every year in a different part of the world, in different countries, whatever. And they'll have city qualifiers leading up to regional, leading up to national, leading up to the World Finals. And I had a spot for the nationals, right? One of 16 people to compete and then be eligible to be possibly even in the World Finals. And what ends up happening is I want to be more, I'm an overachiever. So I start preparing, and I go to these other smaller Red Bull qualifiers that I didn't even need to compete. I already have a spot. People are telling me, why are you here? You don't need to compete. I was like, I want to get ready. I want to do my best for the nationals in 2 weeks. And at the same time as the nationals, I was invited to Pace's mastermind that same weekend.
Yeah.
Right. I like, that was probably the highlight. I was invited to Red Bull. I was invited to the mastermind by Pace, and I make it to the second round in this one of these battles that I didn't need to enter, but I want to just get the reps in with high level people, because I'm going to be battling high level people. And what happens was I go out first round of the second round that I advanced to. I go out the first round, I go out for a side flip, and I land, and the impact, essentially, I already had some trouble, but I guess I didn't realize it until then. In that moment, I tore my ACL, and I had to call out the battle right then and there. And they the ambulance comes. I have to go to the doctor, and that was a whole journey on its own.
And
Man.
this is recent one.
This was
like
August,
last August.
Last
right?
August, yeah.
Like this is
Very,
very
8 months
recent,
ago.
yo.
Yeah, a little
not
over,
even a year.
not even a year. So I go there, and I'm still thinking like, damn, I have these two big events coming up, right? But the first thing I have in my mind is I have to get through this week. So what I do is I go and get an MRI. That was even a challenge on its own, because the healthcare system's telling me like your insurance got to approve it, this, that, and the third. I forced my way to get an MRI. Like I was like, no, I'm gonna go to here. Give me a referral. I'm getting my MRI today. I get it done in one day. I pay out of pocket. This is how great, and this ties a little bit with mindset, because people, even the lady at the front desk, is saying like, excuse me, sir, your insurance is not covering this. It's $370. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's $370. I could pay for it. Like, like I need that today, right now, you know? I get my results and I go see like one of the top athletic surgeons for like these sorts of things. And I get the news that I have my ACL torn. I have to do a reconstruction surgery, and I have to cancel everything going on for the next, not even the next 2 weeks, the next year, 9 to 12 months.
Ooh.
You know?
Not what an athlete wants to hear.
No.
Not what anyone growing wants to hear.
And it's funny enough, my ego was prepared to bounce back, because as soon as I heard the news, okay, I had maybe like 5 minutes to kind of soak in that news. It was bad news, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, we're getting the surgery next Wednesday. I want to be the first one to get the surgery. And we scheduled the surgery.
I remember that too, because I remember like asking you like if you're going to wait till after the event, after like the mastermind, go get the surgery or not.
No, I want.
You really wanted to come out here to Arizona. You really wanted to be here for that.
Yeah, man.
And like that was crazy, because you were invited as a guest. Like it wasn't like you were actually about to be flown out.
Yeah.
To the mastermind.
And after the mastermind, I would have flown out to the competition that would have been in Florida, and I canceled everything. You know, I was grateful, because in that time that let me build up my real estate business with my team, and it wasn't an easy process, but it was one I would forever be grateful for in those months, because I even learned a lot about emotionally myself, that I like leading up to all those events I told you, the series of unfortunate events, leading up to even like the one win I had in real estate to where I'm getting multiple wins now. I'd even say I skipped the whole part. Well, I was carrying something throughout my whole life, where I had this belief where all good things come to an end.
Yep. Oh, wow. Interesting.
And a lot of people realize what people don't realize, even when they get into anything they want to get into, you might not be seeing success because there's a limiting belief that you haven't confronted yet. And that beliefs, like there's this philosopher, Ortega Gazette. He says that your ideas are yours. You own your ideas. You could transform your ideas, but your beliefs, they own your life, whether you know it or not.
That's big. That's big.
And until you learn how to realize where those beliefs stem from, and how it's led to your career, your finances, your relationships, right? Then they're going to continue, running your life. And I've realized, as this knowledge I was learning of within myself, of the ego, more psychology based things in personal development, I was like, wow, I have a certain amount of beliefs that were hindering my success, because I kind of wanted it to be that way. It was all it is, if you know this, it's just a little cherry on top. Your ego attaches to beliefs because all it's doing is protecting you.
Yep.
Because you must have gone through some experience where now it's like it created a belief, and now we got to protect you so you don't have that pain to go through.
It's protecting my identity.
Yeah.
It's protecting my identity. It's funny, Don just jumped on too, and he's just like, oh, he's like, chill, Will. Your job is
I love Don, man. He's so awesome.
No, he's a freaking man.
Love this guy, man.
So that's crazy. So you start to realize, right, that you had some, it's interesting actually, because as an athlete, like I can relate so heavy, because we live sometimes so much in our body, in our physical capability,
right,
that when that gets pulled away from us, it puts us in a different place. It makes us be still.
Yeah.
And when we're still, there's a lot to deal with. There's a lot of things that come up. A lot of people can't be still with themselves. Right? This is why we have so many distractions. TV, Instagram, your cell phone, like people walk to the house and it does not, like how often do you know people that walk into their house and they let it stay quiet? Right? Most people, as soon as they walk in, they gotta turn something on, turn the radio on, turn the TV on, turn their music on. Like they can't be alone with themselves.
Yeah.
So you now get injured, you lose out on two very big things, very big milestones for you in your life. Where are you at? And I told you, I warned everybody, this is going to be a long episode. Like we're diving in deep tonight. So
yeah.
I don't even know if my recording is going to capture all this. My computer's telling me that the disk is almost full. Like we're running out of hard drive space, but we're going to keep going.
Yeah. So all right. So essentially what I end up coming across is I come across this information on this app Clubhouse, something called learning something about called Unani biotypes, right?
This is when you got into Unani biotypes?
I got into it around the same time. Yeah, around the same time when I got injured. So if for those who don't know Unani biotypes, and I might be butchering the description a bit, but there's essentially 4 temperaments, and these temperaments essentially come from like Greek, and it's tied with like Ayurvedic medicine, and it's even practiced in India. But essentially there's 4 biological types of people where you're 70% biology, 30% personality. And what we've come to learn, at least what I learned from what they were describing, was it's just translated all throughout life or all throughout the world universally, but we'll just see it as something else. Maybe like the DISC personality test, you'll see it, right? The 4%, like you'll see it in all these different personality tests.
Right here.
Exactly one of those. But what it is that essentially your biology determines your personality. But what happens is that used to be the case. But as you go on through life, you develop a personality that's not your base personality through your biology, right?
Interesting.
And so with that also came with this training where they were talking about tying in systemic psychology and how that's going to be tying in with your personality and your essentially your biotype.
All right, so we're gonna pause it. We're gonna go because we're going deep now. I want to make sure people are following because we're going off the deep end, right? Sometimes people they get lost when we start going down this place.
Yeah.
So essentially, I want to make sure I'm understanding.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, where we're talking about essentially after you've been injured, right? You're finding yourself in a place where you've got more time to study, you've got more time to sit and learn and reflect,
right?
And you start learning about biotypes, where essentially the premise behind this is actually that our physiological makeup, like the way that we're physically built and made, actually plays a part of our more innate characteristics. And then as we grow, so essentially that's our nature. As we grow, our nurture begins to introduce perhaps like a new psychology, right? A new form of us, like something happens, maybe we had an early childhood trauma, maybe it's just culture, whatever the case is. We start to build something that maybe is or isn't in resonance with the foundation. And this can either potentially cause challenges or can even potentially, if a good combination gets mixed, create this accelerated growth where we're like, holy crap, who is this person? Yeah,
you couldn't have said it any better, honestly. The nature versus nurture concept, 1000%.
Just want to make sure I
understand. No, you said it perfectly. You said it perfectly. And it's hard because once you learn this, it's like you can't unlearn it. You start reading people and you know their life without even them having to tell you anything, right? It gets so crazy, bro, really crazy. So I learned more about myself. I learned more about who I'm attracted to, why I'm attracted to them. But like just even if it's platonic or romantic, like any sort of relationship, you learn why you're drawn to these people and why you're drawn to the decisions you've made. And as I'm learning this, they had an intensive 6-week program where it's called Balancing Your Biotype. So if for my anime fans anyways, you ever seen Avatar, The Last Airbender?
Let's go, bro.
So yeah, you're going to have the 4 elements, fire. Let's look at it as like a compass. Fire's up top, water's at the bottom. On the left-hand side is now earth, and then the right-hand side is air. And those actually indicate the 4 biotypes. My biotype, and I don't want to confuse people or get into too much detail with the names, but the element for that was fire. And so, for example, for me, I had to learn how to balance out my biotype and dive more into my water, where it means mine to start off with is result oriented. I'm goal oriented. I'm impulsive. I want things right now.
So you're a red.
Yeah, I'm a red.
You're
I'm
a
a
red
red.
personality.
Yeah, I'm a red
But
personality
like,
type.
I'm gonna like relate it to like the things I know, where I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. So like what you're describing, I'm like, yo, that's a driver.
I have a controlling personality.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're a driver.
Yeah, and we're natural born leaders, but the thing that we skip out on is we have a hard time understanding emotions, relationships, just being more caring and nurturing in that sense, right? Almost like a mom kind of figure.
Mhm.
And I realized like, wow, I like in the 6 weeks of training that I learned to balance out my biotype, part of it was what beliefs led you to where you are taking this program, or even to just the paths you've taken for your business or personal endeavors, whatever. What beliefs led to that? What started those beliefs? What other memories also compounded to add on to those beliefs, right? And man, it got deep. It got so deep where to end it off the 6 week program, I went through emotionally, I went through a lot, romantically as well, and even just business wise, and just even thinking like I wasn't even fully back physically to
I
get
was
into
about to
dance.
say, yeah, like this is literally like a brand new rock bottom.
Yeah, it was a brand new rock bottom. And when I finally, the way essentially to balance out, they call, and I don't want to sound like a cuckoo crazy guy, but I'm gonna get into a bit detail where
Sure, we're going off the deep end, yeah.
we're going off the deep end a little bit. So they said in order to basically hack your subconscious, it's something known as doing a psycho magic act. And the way they described it was, I mean, we do this every day. Like if you graduate high school, what really indicates that you graduate high school? That you have to walk down what is it, like down the lane and
Right.
get your diploma, and then okay, now that I guess in your head that indicates that you graduated high school, or weddings or anniversaries or whatever, birthdays, something ceremonial, right? And there's essentially symbols that mean the same thing in all cultures. So fire means you're burning something, like yeah, something's being burnt. You're bearing something, that means that's the end of that. Honey means like caring, sweet. um and there was something with milk as well, like tying in with money, but I don't.
Everyone else is so curious as me, like it's like I want to know where this is going. I'm like,
I'll get into it. So
patience, yeah.
so essentially what ends up happening is I have to do a psycho magic act where I have to basically indicate something, because just add a little more detail. Actors, for example, they do it all the time, right? Your unconscious doesn't know what's going on, but your conscious does, right? So I'm sorry, your conscious, like, you know what's going on, but your unconscious doesn't know what's going on. So like, let's say if there's a scene and I have to kill my son and we have to take that scene 100 takes, you know we're acting, but your unconscious doesn't. And that's why you'll see a lot of actors actually kind of,
that makes a lot of sense, because even if you think about who was it that played the Joker back then?
Yeah, 100%. That was, yeah.
Like, he couldn't, at some point, you've done this so many times, you can't separate that. You know what? That's a test. That should be a whole study right there, just on.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Yeah. That's actually really cool to think about, because why do we enjoy our favorite actors is because they do get so much in that scene. Like when we're watching them on a TV screen, like on a movie screen, like they actually are that person in that moment. That's who they are. So you start to realize you're going to have to do like a ritual like that puts you in that state of identity, right? You adopt that identity.
I essentially have to bury the old Will that I was comfortable with, that my ego was comfortable with. My ego was actually terrified up until doing the actual act itself, where the way I did my act was, I got some chains. I got a chain breaker. I had money tied to it as well. I wrote a letter to myself, to my old self, saying like, thank you for bringing me to where I've been and the lessons I've learned and everything that I've gone through as a result, but I don't need you anymore. And I had this ceremony where you could have someone else present and the other person broke the chains. It made money come to me easily. I brought also a childhood gift, like something from my childhood, right? And then I read the letter out loud and I burnt it, and I threw out the ashes. Well, I put honey over it and then threw out the ashes.
By healing.
Yeah, to testify healing. And then because there were so many beliefs that tied in with childhood, having like money being a challenge as well, and then even just carrying a heavy weight.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned getting into dancing, remember I told you we're 10-year-olds battling like 25-year-olds, right?
Yep.
I essentially even growing up in New York, you're gonna go through this. Maybe not so much now, but at least when we were coming up, you're kind of forced to grow up early,
Without a doubt, New York
and
definitely does that.
100%. And you kind of skip out on a phase of life where you don't get to go back and enjoy it. And when I found out I skipped out on a whole phase of life that I didn't even realize because I was forced to grow up. That act itself, consciously, I know what I was doing, but unconsciously, that lifted a burden. And I've seen so many
Mm,
things change as a result. I mean, that's essentially one way to hack the subconscious.
bro, I gotta like look because Ingrid just said something over here too. Ingrid said, "Wow, I would love to do this." I love that. Like, yo, bro, you're making some waves right now because
That's
I just lost the comment. Sorry about that, yeah. But like,
so good.
no, you know, like I was just so curious because I saw something. I was like, yo, she's saying something, and I want to make sure that we read that and
Yeah.
catch that because what you're talking about, it's like it's powerful, right? Like,
It's,
because
it's
I even like I started to get imagery in my mind of you having that chain across you, of you having that money there, of you having this block, this lock,
yeah,
and so much of what we do is an internal game. I
yeah.
am convinced, like wholeheartedly, if somebody try to prove me otherwise, that everything we do in life is an internal game.
Oh,
Everything.
yeah.
Like there isn't anything that we do that's not personal development, that's not
Oh, yeah.
our own improvement. That's an opportunity for us to grow. So you cut the chain. And again, like this is interesting because you're doing this at a low point. And
Yeah,
like I want to emphasize that a lot of times some of our biggest growth comes from the lowest lows. Like
yeah.
that's the moments where it happens where it's almost like we're being pulled back, that like analogy of like the arrow
Yeah,
being pulled back. Like it has to be pulled back, although everyone else is getting ahead. You've got to be pulled back to get slung forward.
yeah. And I'll tell you what I started seeing right away, where in that time I started to tap into my feel. I'd never tapped into my feelings. Like even if it came to relationships in general, or even something bad happened, like even those series of unfortunate events,
Yep.
I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna add it on to the back. Like I got this. I'm gonna thug it out. But something changed where even like the phone calls we're making with sellers, I'm actually feeling them. Like I like and then I reach out to people who feel on a general basis, and women have a way more better ability to feel.
Bro, if your feminine energy is looking
Yeah,
up on the
bro,
real, like
it really is true,
dudes
bro.
don't talk about this, but like
The feminine, and you need the feminine energy to manifest.
it's pot, like it's literally the creative force. Like
Yeah.
I mean, we can get into a whole like this is
Oh
actually
yeah,
what
that's a
low-key
whole.
one of my favorite topics to
Of
talk about that
course.
no one ever talks about. Or not, I should say no one. People in our circle, I don't often hear them talk about it.
Yeah.
This is literally one of my favorite topics. I've actually like have thought about creating master classes around this topic, creating like books and workshops
Oh,
around
bro.
this
Yeah,
because it is such like an eye opener. And when you realize why so many men run into so many problems, you just now that you're on this side, you realize like, oh, dude, you just haven't tapped into your feminine energy yet. Like
bro.
literally, not even have you not tapped into it, you have no clue it even exists. You don't even know it's a real
Bro,
thing.
I felt so much where it was overbearing, where I'm like, like I gave respect to her, like, how do you feel so much? Because it's a lot.
It's so
And
much.
and at the time I was going through something romantically where it just hurt. Like it in a general basis, it wouldn't have hurt if it was maybe my prior self, right? Prior to that ceremony. But I was like, wow, I'm feeling a lot. And it transferred over to me, feeling more even in my business, in my dance, in my personal endeavors, with even just, or even my relationships in general. Because I used to just, if I hear someone going through a problem, even one of my personal friends, I actually felt for him. Like I was like, yo, I'll give you a hug. Like I really feel for you. And before I'd be like, yo, just thug it out, bro. Why you being like, why you being so soft? You
Yeah.
know? And I've seen it happen now. And look, I'm honestly, my team is getting a lot more success with our calls, because when you care more, you do close more, right?
It's everything, man. Like 'cause sales is service. Like
It's a service, bro.
when we
Yeah,
realize that, like things just, bro. You know what's funny? There, like I don't say this often, right? Like there are mornings, you know, from like I wake up early for the morning mindset coffees,
right.
right? Up like 4 a.m. for everybody because I'm on the West Coast, and there are some days where I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I don't want to be up at 4 a.m. Like
Yeah,
I would much rather be asleep, especially when something keeps me up a little late, and now I'm running on 2, 3 hours of sleep. I really don't want to be awake. And what gets me to show up is I remind myself, yo, people are getting better because of this.
yeah,
People are changing lives because of this, going through some major situations. Like, care about them. If you don't
yeah.
like care for anything else, care about them right now. And then those end up being the days where we have some of the biggest breakthroughs where people are just like, yo, I needed to be here today. I needed to hear that today. So I can only imagine, like, now that you're tapping into that with your sellers, right? You're really like, you're solving more problems. You're helping, because it hurts. Like, it hurts when you don't solve that problem, or like when you make something worse. Right. And like, I'll tell you this story later, man. Like, I think I told you, like, last week, like last Friday, no joke, I was like, I think I came out, I told Devin, I was just like, yo, I cried just now. Like, last Friday morning, I cried. And I cried because I got involved in a situation and I made it worse. And I didn't bring value to the equation. And I actually took value away and like destroyed value. I didn't even like keep it. I literally like lit value on fire and made the situation worse. And I was just like, I don't want to be this person, like, ever. But I was grateful to feel that. I was grateful because something clicked in me again last week, where I'm just like, things have been a little different since then. So it's always at these moments of being at a low that something new turns on. So, bro, that's insane.
So and it gets even crazier because, well, just even more recent events, you know, I always had trouble just with the power of manifesting itself, right? People would say, you know, manifest this, and it's and even saying you want to manifest something, unless it's coming from a clean, good source of energy, like, you know, you can manifest something, but it could drain you as well, right? I've started to see things happen, like with my team, like even someone we brought on new, his name was David, and he got his first contract. And I was like emotionally, I was like, wow, I helped teach someone to duplicate a result, and he's happy for it. And I want to make more of that happen. And I want to make more of that happen for the rest of my team. I'm seeing them, I'm able to provide funds going to their bank accounts. I'm like, yo, I love being in this, put in this position where I could, you know, feel that sort of enjoyment, and manifest that sort of possibility. And I'm seeing it even happen in my my professional dance career, where I'm still competing at a high level. Just recently, like I remember I was on my way, not here, but I think after Clever Summit, I got an email saying I was invited to a competition for Red Bull. They wanted me back, right? And to, as an invitee, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. You know, like the things that I would just like, wow, like I have to be grateful at these points, because manifesting used to be so, you know, challenging, man. It's like I was pushing a rock, and it's like, it doesn't have to be like that.
Yo, anyone else like loving this episode right now? Anybody, like, I'm over here like listening, I'm just like, yo, like, I love this, man.
Yeah, man.
Because that's what it can feel like, so long. And like, this is a testament of persistence, right? Because you started diving into this work on like self-development, personal development. It's been over 2 years now. Hell, it's probably been over like 3 years. Right? Maybe even longer, right? That you've been like doing. And now the seeds that have been planted, even just like the seed at a foundation level, like as a foundation itself, is forming. And you're recognizing like, oh my gosh, like I'm finally grabbing from the clean pool.
Man. I'm
finally, like I've been making from the mud this whole time.
Like today was a perfect example, man. You know, contacted Pace. I just figured we'd link up to see Wholesale Hotline, and literally we go on the set of A&E. You know, and have an amazing
on TV. On national television.
You'll catch me on A&E on one of his episodes. I'm like, wow, like that, and we didn't expect that today. You know, and I was happy I got to bring you along for the drive. I was like, that made it even so much better. So many things happen in that sense, man. Like just, and I remember you tapped into this message as well. You have to prepare for the success, but a lot of the work comes internally. And that can't be any more further from that can't be any more close to the truth, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's all internal work, right? Like it's literally some of the highest level conversations I have with people. It's so funny because people will actually, someone asked me this the other day. They said, like, how do you go up and just talk to people that are much higher level than you, people that are earning way more money than you, people that have achieved more success, people that have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 business years experience on top of you. And I like had to stop and think about it for a second. I was like, oh, how do I go talk to these people? And I realized I'm talking about the only thing that matters, right? Which is the mindset, right? We're talking about like the things that are internal, you know, because yes, they can tell you the practical steps of do this, do that, do this. Like there's plenty of books in the library that can do the same thing, but until you become the right person, that stuff, it doesn't quite work. Because again, it's like, I like the analogy here. I'm actually going to start using this, man. It's like you're pulling source material from the mud versus pulling it from this like clean pool of fresh water, right? Like you got to build with fresh water. but the only way you could tap into the fresh water is become the person that's clean enough to go over there.
Yeah.
You know, and like it doesn't mean stop just because you're here in the mud. No, you keep going through the motion of building, because as you learn how to build with this mud, eventually when you're given the proper supplies, the growth is going to take off.
Wow, 1000% on that. Yeah.
That's fire. So you learn about the biotypes, you start to tap into your ability to manifest. You're starting to see now that your team is actually putting deals up on the board, right? You've got a business more so now than you had in the past.
Yeah.
And you're actually living the life that you actually want to be living, right? You're literally traveling. I mean, I'm seeing you here in Arizona. I saw you like a week ago or 2 weeks ago in Vegas, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you all of it because I've been traveling to probably 4 or 5 different states in the past 4 weeks. I went to Minneapolis to part of the
This guy's all over the place.
I was
I traveled.
I've been in a different state every weekend because I was competing for breakdancing is going to be in the Olympics in 2024. And they had these regional qualifiers starting right now in 2022, where you build up points to then have a chance to compete at another larger event. And at that point, you get to be on the USA team and qualify at least, right? So I was starting to build up points since Minneapolis, went from Minneapolis back to New York, went to Vegas for the Clever Summit, went to Orlando for another competition, went to Arizona this past weekend. We're here in Phoenix for another competition, and I'm going to stay the rest of the week out for the All-In event at the end of the week.
Let's go.
I'm not living the life that I want completely, like, you know, if I'm going to be like super specific detail oriented, but I'm enjoying the life I'm living right now, because that was going back to that belief that I had before, where all good things come to an end. That was a powerful belief in terms of making me resilient to jump back so quick into anything. Hence the get the surgery 2 days later, you know what I mean? Or a week later. But then again, the success that I was having even at that time, I didn't enjoy it, because in the back of my head,
I think it's gonna end.
Even the ACL tear, the tearing my ACL, I kind of felt like something was gonna happen, something bad was gonna happen. Like it was just kind of a matter of time, and it was like a poetic relationship with death. But once I learned to dissolve that belief, and did the psychomagic act and did the, I don't want to say the word work, because work would indicate, I guess, a negative connotation of labor. I did the proper love towards myself to.
Yeah, we're gonna have to dive into that.
Yeah,
you know, even because like just like the association with work, the fact that you said negative connotation, and in my mind, I've recently been rewiring it to believe that work is actually like a blessing, like, and it was a gift from God to us that we have this ability to work, because there's so much fulfillment that comes from working. At least for myself now, like the days I feel not fulfilled is the days I don't get to work. But you got to go through the process. To go through the evolution. Yeah,
I definitely got to. And now I'm at a point where, like I told you, since I've learned to balance out, and it's a journey. It's never a one finished product.
Right.
I learned now how to enjoy myself way more than I could have enjoyed myself prior, because I was always focused on, okay, well, what's going to be the next thing? What's going to be the next thing? You know, I'm not enjoying the results I'm making for myself.
That's big. It's funny, man. Like you remember Ricky, right? You met
Ricky
Morgan, right? And he and I had this conversation in a big way, where we spoke about lifestyle.
Wow.
Right. You know, it's like essentially like, hey, what are you going after? Are you going after the money? Are you going after this? Or are you going after the lifestyle? Right. And it's just like, most of us, like, we understand we're going for the lifestyle. That's why I say, like, you know, you are enjoying like the life that you're living, simply because you're on route, you're in process, you're enjoying the lifestyle, you're traveling, you're working from wherever you want, you're putting your team together, you're building something that you are genuinely enjoying, you're building for your future, you're thinking in long time frames, you're building for the Olympics, you're making good friends, you're having fun experiences while doing it. Like, it literally is like, when they look back and they start to document the entire movie that is they're gonna be like, oh, yo, we're definitely adding these scenes into it. Yeah, it's fire.
Yeah, man. And I love the whole journey, because it's just one thing I can't get over, at least, is just how much fun it is to you just see the refinement, the leveling up of one's own personal development. Because even in my own dance style or just personal results in anything I do, I'm like, wow, like I'm just seeing myself, and I'm getting better and better, and I can't wait I just want to see what's the next thing. I'm excited for it, you know. I'm excited to experience it.
Let's go. So check this out, man. we're gonna start to wrap this up because
Yeah.
we're gonna get some food and some hanging out.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I like to ask people these
Yeah.
questions at the end of every episode. You know, first question is very simple, right? Like you, because by the way, your story is phenomenal, man. Like this is actually like the most like in depth like I think I've ever gotten into your personal story. So I'm like really happy to.
No, I appreciate you. Yeah, I was just like, oh, I get to be selected by Marlon. I was like, oh man, I figured I didn't think this would happen for another few years, but I was like, oh, bro, thank you, I appreciate you.
Yo, you already know we're gonna be having part 2.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited for part 2.
Heck yeah, man. So check it out, right? Books have been super influential for myself, for you. I mean, you and I share an Audible account. Audible account. I'm on his Audible account. In return, he got to hijack my YouTube account, so I lose videos all the time. We're not going to talk about that right now because I go to my history and I'm like, who the hell is watching so many breakdancing videos right now? But like, thanks to you, I do find some really new cool things on YouTube just because you're there. But books have been a catalyst for change, right? So you already said Rich Dad Poor Dad was one of those books that you got and it just really put you into a different mindset.
No.
What's another book, no more than 2, just 1 to 2 books that have been total paradigm shifts for you? Like I'm talking after the first read, you just have never quite gone back to being the same.
Well, first book that comes to mind is Spirit Hacking by Shaman Durek. That one was phenomenal. That was a phenomenal book. And I would have to say, man, the second book, that's always going to be a challenging one. I definitely am going to have to say, like, even more recently, because I guess I just recently listened to it and it was an amazing book, was Will by Will Smith.
You're telling me about that.
Yeah, like that one was actually a really amazing book. So I had those 2, Spirit Hacking by Shaman Durek and then Will by Will Smith.
You sure it wasn't just because it had your name in it, bro?
Yeah.
So definitely I'm gonna look into those books. Actually, I'm sure you probably already have them on the audio.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Perks of squatting up. So next question I have for you is one of my favorites, and I'm actually gonna end up making a book on this. So shout out to the VA in the future that has to go and like go through all my episodes and go capture all the answers because I definitely do not have the time to go back and do that.
Yeah.
Let's imagine tomorrow morning you wake up, this bed, you wake up, and like as you're waking up, it's 4:00 in the morning because you hear me shouting from the other room for Morning Mindset Coffee. And as you start to come to consciousness, you realize like, I don't remember anything. Like you were just a blank slate. I'm talking like you don't remember your name, you don't remember what you're doing here in Arizona, you don't even know you're in Arizona. You just don't remember the breakdancing, the hip hop, the real estate, the late nights, the ups, the downs, the spirit hacking, none of it. Like it's all gone. You're not freaking out. It's not a Saw movie. You're not scared for your life. And as you start to, just get yourself up and about, you start to have a thought. And as this thought comes to you, it sticks. Like whatever it is, like it just sticks. You don't question it. You don't fight it. You don't resist it. You just accept it as 100% factual and truth. And that thought begins the foundation of everything else in your life to come. What would you ideally want that thought to be?
Oof. That's a packed question right there.
Yes, sir.
Essentially, if I had that thought come in a scenario like that, I think one of the main things that I'd say that thought that comes to mind is it would have to deal with resiliency, because anything that you tie into, anything that you do, anything that you love for, right? It's never gonna. I never want to say it's gonna be difficult, but it's always gonna be worth going for. And resiliency is probably one of the most powerful things, because it's gonna help you enjoy that process all the more better.
Bro, I like that. That's awesome, man. That's a really good answer.
Thank you, bro.
So for the people that just found out about you via Facebook, via the podcast, via IG, matter of fact, bro, you gotta show them you.
For the
y'all see how handsome he is? Y'all see
for the books, it says here the name of the books. The books were Spirit Hacking by Shaman Durek, and then Will by Will Smith. Those were the two books.
So for everyone that is like, yo, this dude is freaking awesome. Like for people watching on Facebook, people on IG, like how can they get in contact with you? How do they connect with you? Like they want to stay connected. Like where should they go?
They could always call me. I'm not like a superstar flashy guy, so they could call me, text me on my cell phone if they need help with anything. It's at 917-216-1491. My Instagram is Will Ayarza, right? For that's the main one I'm going to be building out anyways, moving forward. And then if they want to see any dance videos, because they're gonna look me up probably. And I never even got to tell you the story. I'll get into it quickly, but my dance name is called Uncle Will. I got that name because when I joined that hip hop class, it was two separate age groups. My nephew joined the younger one. I joined the older one.
Here.
Yeah, and the teacher found out we were related, so he just started calling me Uncle Will. And the other dancers that came on and started teaching, they just said that's a dope name.
That's how you got Uncle Will, bro?
Yeah.
That's funny, man. So
I'm like 12 years old, and you hear Uncle Will, and I have to compete and everything. They're like, you thinking it's going to be a 25-year-old or something, right? And it's like, no, he's 10, 12 or whatever.
That's crazy, man. So Uncle Will on IG, Uncle Will on YouTube. That's where you'll find his breakdancing videos, or just go watch Triple Digit Flip.
You're gonna see.
You go see him like go lock up a house, get a $10,000 discount for breakdancing on the spot. Yo, low key, like we gotta put that offer in tonight.
Yes, we gotta put that offer in.
Dude, how funny would it be you signed the offer, Uncle Will? So that's insane, man. So, bro, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Bro, thank you. I appreciate you so much for even having me. I really do.
Bro, we're gonna be doing this again like very soon. And shout out to everybody that hung out with us and watched through this episode. Super impromptu, first time streaming it live on Facebook. We got it live on IG, and the recording's going to be up for people to listen. So if you got any value, I really want to ask you this, right? If you got any bit of value at all from this episode, my big ask, right? Here's the $1 million ask, right? There's always a sale at the end, is that you share this with a friend. You share this with somebody else that you think would get value from this. You pass it on to them. And you simply you comment, right? Like if it's on my Instagram, if it's on YouTube, leave a comment. Tell us what your biggest takeaway is. I can't emphasize how much that has the ability to affect somebody else's life, not just your life, but actually, because there have been times where I'm scrolling through something and I'm trying to figure out if I want to watch a video or not. And I see a comment or I see, oh, Ingrid shared this. Oh, we'll watch this. Now it makes me want to engage with it. And it ends up being information that is absolutely critical to my personal development and my growth. So that's how you can give anything to us, is you pass it on, you share it, and you pay it forward. So Will, bro, we're going to be having part 2, bro.
Yes, sir, brother.
Looking forward to that. And everybody else, I hope you enjoyed this. Ingrid, shout out to you for being there with us all day. Shout out to everybody who's on Facebook. I will catch you all later. Let's end this recording.